It's a Kirblog about Otakon. All the years I went to Baltimore. This is just like one of my Japanese animes. Snake. Funniest thing about that, you're more likely to hear a Metal Gear song from this than an actual Kirblog full-on about Metal Gear, because I've never played any of them. I'm sorry. Hi. I've been doing a lot of these like super long ones this month. Not that I'm complaining, because I've been very happy to have the guests that I've had joining me. But I figured, like, I haven't done a short one in a while, so I'll go back to something simple. And I thought, relevant to this past week, or rather a weekend ago from when this is going to be going up, was the last year of Otakon. And it's, well, not its last year ever, but it's specifically its last year in the Baltimore Convention Center, which is where I have been in attendance for, I want to say, at least 5 or 6 years. Since 2005, I've been going to Otakon. It was the not the very, very first convention I ever went to, but it was because I'd been to Icon, which was a very small little local convention in Long Island, not far away from where I was. And I want to say maybe I went to like a Big Apple Con or something in New York City, possibly. By the way, Otakon was the first like major convention I'd ever been to. And I remember, the first 3 years, I went 2005, 6, and 7 all in a row. And for those first 3 years, I remember that I drove out with Mike Lucas, and my dad would go with us, and he would take us there because, I mean, we were still in high school at the time, and we didn't really, have any major accessibility to go on our own through like public transit or whatever. Later years we did, but we'd get the tickets, and my dad would take us, and we'd usually get a hotel somewhere in Baltimore close by the convention center, walking distance. And Otakon not only is a fantastic convention itself, it had a lot of really cool events that have been part of, just even well before I was doing anything in the industry professionally, just, getting to be there and seeing, all these special events and meeting guests for the first time, and, just having a great experience with that. It was also, particularly, it was a place where, it was the first place where I had met in person a lot of our early internet friends. I've talked a couple times about the Fallout Shelter forum on other Kirblogs when I've been talking about the origin of Tome, and at that time that was within the first year or so. I think actually by that point I had been doing Tome for about a year, and Mike and I had made friends with a lot of people on the website. Most of them, I think maybe even all of them, to be honest. We haven't talked to in a very, very, very long time. But I remember the first year I went, I was still very, very, I was a young, stupid kid. Not that I'm not still a stupid kid in a 27-year-old's body at this point, let's be fucking honest. But it was really cool to, actually have that experience of getting to meet people, as fans of Tome will know as well, in terms of the kind of meaning of the main characters, too. That's a major landmark, and they were all people that, they were like other artists and other people kind of involved and interested in the same stuff that we were. Also, little side note, the Otakon 2005 trip was also where I got to see my first girlfriend for the first time. So that was also a major landmark, and we actually we cosplayed together. I've never considered myself like an extensive cosplayer, but I've definitely done it a couple times at conventions. I remember actually at that first one, I really wanted to make a big splash in terms of I'm gonna go to my first convention, really have it be really cool, and it's gonna be awesome, and I'm gonna get a cool costume and shit. And also, I remember actually Mike and I were this was way back when I actually did Artist Alley. I haven't done it in many years. The most recent example of which was it was Dealer's Hall, not Artist Alley. Was when I was doing sketches and selling stuff at the Level Up Studios booth at Fanime back in May or April, maybe, I forget. But I haven't done Artist Alley since Otakon 2006. In 2005 and 2006 in a row, both of those years, I had been splitting a pretty big Artist Alley table with Mike and a few other people from the Fallout Shelter forum that we had been that we known at the time, and we were all selling our artwork. And I remember, strangely, I had a Naruto Shippuden print, which wasn't even out over here yet, and a Star Fox characters print, which like 3 people bought. But it was really fun just having the experience of getting to do that. And because so many of our friends were all kind of centered around there, that Artist Alley table kind of became our hub for just kind of hanging out, and we'd regroup and get food and stuff like that. I remember we were actually sitting across from I think maybe it was I think the following year that we did Artist Alley in 2006, I believe we were sitting right across from Scott Ramseymer, the VG Cats creator, who's a great guy. I actually really want to get him for a Kirblog at some point, because somebody submitted a great question about doing a webcomic, but if I can maybe get him at some point down the line. But anyway, he was sitting right across from us, and VG Cats was like really, really exploding to be massively popular at the time. So, and also I remember, I think in the 2006 year, we were behind a fucking pillar. So we were losing a lot of business because there was like barely anybody able to see us behind it. And it was like, I remember we were really fucking angry about that. I remember, the 2005, sorry, I keep bouncing around a little bit, but those 3 years kind of in a row were all sort of in tandem with each other. The Otakon 2007 was actually right before we went to college as well. So we were, really excited about jumping right into that after the convention was over. But the first year, we met a lot of our first internet friends. I met my girlfriend for the first time there in person. I started meeting some professional voiceover people that were there for the first time, which was, a big deal to me. I remember I met, actually, this is a great story. I met Mike McFarland, who's a fantastic director and voice actor at Funimation. And this was when Full Metal Alchemist was like taking over the fucking world. And I remember we were in the karaoke lounge, and he was there, and Mike was with me, Mike Lucas, and we were like, "Hey, Mike McFarland, can you do a Roshi line?" And he was like, "Hey, Android 18, take your shirt off." And I was like, "Wow, that was real Dragon Ball Z uncut edition or whatever." It was like some fucking lame joke or whatever. But nonetheless, I also met Mariana Miller there for the first time. That was when I knew some people from a Full Metal Alchemist fan group that I think doesn't even exist anymore. It's called Hellcon, and she was one of the main people there. And she knew Mike and a few other people that worked on the show, just kind of like through the fandom. And I remember she and Mike both sang because we were at the karaoke lounge, and they banned Ready Steady Go because it was just being sung by people so many fucking times because FMA was so popular that year. I was sitting there, and Mariana and Mike McFarland sang an English version that she had wrote of Brother, which Vic Mignogna also, I think, infamously later did his own like full cover of or whatever. But it was the "How can I repay you, brother?" They sang that on stage, and it was amazing. And I remember hearing Mariana sing for the first time, and I was like, "That kid's gonna be a star someday. She's gonna be in anime." And she's awesome. So that was great. Yeah, I'd really forgotten. Like I met her there for the first time too, which was great. Yeah, the following years, kind of on that same note, is I was meeting a lot of industry people for the first time who I later went on to be pretty cool with, if not like flat out friends with. Like when I'd see them at other conventions, they'd always be really cool to me. I met Steve. Oh, actually, this is great. So I met Steve Bloom for the first time, and it's so funny because now I've met him like as a professional, like years later with all the stuff I've done. He's a wonderful human being. And those of you who maybe have followed me on DeviantArt, I used to do these pictures as GIFs. I haven't done any for a very long time, but I used to do these GIFs for voice actor guests at conventions where I would draw like a cartoon version of them with like 6 or 7 of their different characters that they voiced kind of like all around them. And I drew a bunch for there were some for like Laura Bailey and Chris Sabat, Sean Schemmel, mostly Funimation people because a lot of them were doing the conventions at the time. And I did one for Steve Bloom, and I was at his panel, and Vic decided to crash his panel because he could, and he sort of knew who I was from like previous years, and I was trying to get his attention because Steve was talking to somebody. And I was like, "Hey Vic, can you give this picture to Steve?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I can do that for you, Kerbifer." And he did, and then he gave it to Steve, and I was sitting in like close to the front row with like Mike Lucas and a bunch of our friends who we were hanging out with that year. I think this was 2006, I believe. 6 or 7, I can't remember. But he came over with the picture and he said, "Hey man, did you? I can't do Steve Bloom, but did you draw this?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I get your autograph?" And I'm like, "Okay, Mike, can you hand me a Sharpie, please?" And I fucking drew. And Steve Bloom has my autograph because why not? Which was amazing, and he was super cool, and the panel was really funny, and he's a funny motherfucker. So. Yeah, and there were a lot of great experiences with some of the other guests like that. Another one worth noting was Chris Bevins, who's another awesome voice director at Funimation, worked on a lot of my favorite shows that I talked about during Anime April a few months ago. I drew one of the pictures for him and gave it to him, and he was like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome! Thank you so much." And then I walked away for the next person to get in line, and then he like called out. He was like, "Chris," and I'm like, "Yeah," because I introduced myself, and he's like, "Are you Kerbifer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah, I know who you are," and I was like, "What the fuck, dude?" He knew of me not because of like my work or whatever, because I would post on this. It's the fandom post. I think at the time it was called something else. But it was a forum where like a lot of people would talk about English dubs for shows and movies and things like that. And apparently he used to frequent that forum, and he knew of my name from that. And I was like, oh, okay. And every time I see Bevins at another convention, he's like super fucking nice to me. So major shout out to him as well. But guest side and blah, 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 whatever. On actually a much more personal and I would say important note than that. 2006 in particular was a year that I really, really fondly remember. And interestingly, you know, I'll even say this. If anybody listening to this, if you were part of like Mike and I's hangout group in Otakon 2006, leave a comment, because I haven't talked to, I don't think any of those guys in a really, really long time. But we basically had like a hangout group. It was a few people that had gone last year that were part of the Fallout Shelter crew, but there's a lot of folks that hadn't been there the previous year, and they were coming to it for the first time. And we hung out with them the whole weekend, and they were super, super fucking cool. Like they were like, you know, for really only having like very minor interactions with them over like forums and stuff like that. Like we really bonded with those guys, and it was really cool. I remember there was one night in particular that we stayed up. We went to our first 18 plus panel. I believe we were 18 at that time, so we were able to go. We went to an 18 plus panel where they had all the voice actor guests, and Yuri Lowenthal in particular was making some fucking hilarious jokes that will never be spoken aloud. But Mike McFarlane was on that one. Monica Rial, Christine Otten, I think some other people were there too. It was really fucking funny. And we were staying up way later than we were supposed to. And my dad, who was freaking out and was furious because, very rightfully so, we were out at like past midnight in fucking Baltimore, which for those of you who don't know is not the most particularly safe city in the world. It's not like you know, Death City or whatever, but it's pretty grungy, and like, you know, we were a decent walk away from where our hotel was. So my dad was very worried, and we got kind of chewed out, and we were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dad," but it was kind of made for kind of a funny story later on. But yeah, after the next couple of years, the group was changing a lot in terms of like the people we would often be hanging out with. In the later years into when we were in college, Mike was often going because he was doing Artist Alley, and he was able to make like actual money, you know, with his own stuff. He and Steve Yurko would both go to Otakon a lot. I remember, I want to say it was either 2010 or 11. I can't quite remember. But for those of you who have been to Otakon many times, whatever the year was where the fucking fire alarm happened, I think it was either 2010 or 11. I know for sure it was one of those 2 years. That was a fun fucking year. It was funny because Otakon by that point was kind of becoming one of those conventions where like there were so many people that I knew and like all kind of scattered around in different places that it was kind of like in New York Comic Con, maybe not to the same extent as that, but like New York Comic Con, I knew so many people mainly because they were local and I knew them from the area that like I would just run into. I was like, "Oh, I'm hanging out with you now. Oh, I'm hanging out with you now," and I was bouncing between so many different like friends that were around. And that same year that the fire alarm fiasco happened, it wasn't anything serious. You know, in terms of like nobody was hurt, thank God. It was like a kitchen fire in the dealer's hall. But I remember that year, Martin and I, Little Karibo, were actually staying together, and I think that was one of the first. I think that was one of the first conventions that we did together. Like where I would once in a while I would go and help with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge booth. I would help with selling stuff and helping to look after the booth, like if Martin had to go off and like get food or something, and that was a lot of fun. In fact, I think that same year was actually the first time that I met. I'd talked with him briefly before on Skype, but first time that I had hung out with Shady in real life. He was visiting. I think that was the first time he came to visit the U.S. He was at Otakon that year, and we were hanging out, and we got to know each other and became better friends over the course of that year. And then, of course, that was a little bit before Tome had started. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I think it was 2010. I'm pretty sure because I believe that it would have been the following year. When he and I started doing Tome. So by that point, we had become good enough friends, and we were working together in that regard, which was really cool. Yeah, going back like 30 subjects ago, I totally forgot to mention my cosplay that I did for the first year I went was bass.exe from Battle Network, Mega Man Battle Network, and I remember I went to a cosplay meetup with a bunch of folks from Rockman EXE Online, which was like a big Battle Network fan site specifically for the anime. If anybody listening was a forum goer on that website and knows of how notoriously fucking annoying I was because I was 16 at the time. Shout outs in the comments if you want. That was cool. And I think if you like dig far enough into the reaches of the internet, you can find some cosplay photos of me as Bass. It was bizarre because I had the poncho, but it was hot as fuck in Baltimore in the summer, so I didn't wear it very often, but my ass looked, even though I'm a skinny guy, my ass looked gelatinous in the fucking Bass bodysuit. So it was mildly embarrassing, but that was really cool. Yeah, it's crazy to think about like how many like major things happened like at this particular convention, just in terms of like the people I met, the friends that I made. I got my first kiss there. Well, my first like kiss with a girlfriend, not like, young stupid love of not knowing what the hell you're doing. Like my first actual girlfriend. At that con, which was, a big deal for me when you're a teenager, and then like sang karaoke on stage. I sang fucking We Are from One Piece, the Straw Hat version in Japanese. And I sang, I tried singing Live and Learn from Sonic Adventure 2, and I totally couldn't hit the high notes. It was super fucking embarrassing, but I did it on stage in front of a bunch of people. Bleh. And, getting to share it with Mike Lucas, because we'd done everything together, and meeting a lot of our friends, and and just kind of getting a vibe for what, like, not that Otakon is like super tied to like the industry in terms of like what we were going for with our career paths, but like getting to do Artist Alley was really cool, and meeting other industry professionals and other artists. I met Rob and Alan, who are the two creators of Cryomore, at Artist Alley one year. I met two of my friends, Grace and Crystal, Nargile and Wizard of Kitty, both very talented artists on Twitter, if you haven't seen their stuff before. Met them at Artist Alley. I think that was the same year I met Rob and Alan, actually. Actually, you know what? Before I forget to mention this, I also met Jim Vals, who's one of the head honchos of Otakor, or Otakor Corporation, the folks that run the convention, who's super nice. And actually, he's kind of part of what inspired me to do this topic, because he was talking about like, oh, we're saying goodbye to Baltimore, and I think they're moving the venue to DC now, which is great. And he's a great guy, super nice to me. Shout out to you, Jim, if you ever hear this. But yeah, like it was every year, like and I'll even say too, because when you're a teenager and like when you meet people and like there's drama sometimes that happens at conventions. I think that a lot of people especially people who have been to a lot of cons, always have their fair share of drama. But despite that, like every year I went, I always had a great time overall, even when like something like stupid would happen or some like major bullshit would come up or something. I always left having a great time for the whole weekend, and it was cool. And then getting to go back after a while, like on my own, like through public transit, and staying with friends and hanging out with people. Like it made for a really good hangout con, and it was cool to see some of the like industry events and meet some of the guests and stuff who were always really cool. And actually, I remember. I think I've talked about this before, maybe a long time ago on the Battle Network Kirblog I did, but I met Shingo Adachi, who was a character designer. He was there promoting specifically Sword Art Online, and he was also one of the main character designers on Mega Man NT Warrior, Battle Network, Rockman EXE, whatever you want to call it. He was a major, major influence on my art, and I met him, and I think I probably attempted speaking in Japanese, like very minutely, just to like say thank you, and like your major influence. And he was really nice, and he was very, very gracious and stuff. And I drew a picture of Mega Man EXE and Alpha like doing stuff together, and he signed that for me, which was really cool. And yeah, so that was awesome. It's just lots of great memories, so many great people that we met. Lots of fun things to be had. It was a really good first taste of doing like bigger conventions, because now since then we've done AX and Comic-Con San Diego and stuff like that, and those are great too. I enjoy going to conventions like that, but Otakon will always have a special place in my heart. I'm very sad I didn't get to go this year. For the final year, it was going to be in Baltimore. Just it wasn't in the cards. I couldn't afford to lay down the money for that. But for the 6 however many years I went, I had a wonderful time. To anybody on staff who worked at Otakon, if you ever happen to come across this or something, Thanks for doing such a great job and making such a great experience for me and all my friends that I went with all the years. I'm sure it'll be great in the new venue and everything. I would love to go back to it someday because it's a great con, and it's always a good time. But I think that's about it. So just a little quick one. Just wanted to recount some memories about that. So in the comments below, to any and all of you out there, I'll say first and foremost specifically, if you've ever been to Otakon, leave a comment about some of your experiences there. What are some fun things you did, some panels you went to, some guests you met, some friends that you made there, and any kind of cool stories that you can share about that. And also just, in general, if you have some particular favorite cons, like a first convention that was really big and massive that you had went to before, and what was your experience like with that? Tell me some stories about your experiences with that. I'd love to hear them. And I think that's going to do it. I might be having a few more guests for the rest of this month. I know I've been doing a lot of long ones, but hopefully they've been somewhat entertaining, and thanks for listening as always. Really appreciate it. If you have future Kirblog topic suggestions, as always, leave comments about that too, or you can hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like. That'll do it, and I'll catch you later. Otakon. Bye. I love you.